Congratulations, you've just found the number one over 50 health and wellness podcast on the planet. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert and the founder of The Silver Edge, and I am on a mission to help men and women just like you build lean, strong, healthy, amazing, capable bodies that they love for the rest of their lives. Okay, folks, here we go. I'm going to make a strong statement right out of the gate. Most people do not have a fitness problem. They have a weak problem. Weak as in W-E-E-K. They obsess over workouts. They stress about nutrition. They download meal plans and training plans and step plans and supplement plans. And then real life shows up on Wednesday and everything falls apart. Sound familiar? Yeah. Here's the thing that nobody's going to tell you. Healthy people don't have perfect days. They have predictable weeks. They're not motivated every morning. They don't win every meal. They don't crush every workout. But what they do have is a simple structure they return to week after week, even when their life gets messy. And that's the difference, because when the week works, results are going to take care of themselves. So in today's episode, I'm going to walk through what an ideal Silver Edge week actually looks like. Not a fantasy week, not a monk-like routine, not something that only works if you cancel your social life and move into the gym, but a real repeatable week designed for adults over 50 who want to get strong and lean and energized without constantly starting over. This is the structure behind the results you see, and once you understand it, motivation stops being the boss. All right, so whip up your protein smoothie, folks, and let's break this down. All right, guys, I want to talk about why thinking in weeks changes everything. Most people are going to try and win their health one day at a time. So they wake up thinking, okay, today I'm going to kick ass. I'm going to be perfect. So they nail breakfast. They feel good at lunch. And then life happens. Maybe a meeting runs late, stress spikes, dinner is rushed, and suddenly the day feels like a failure. So they mentally throw it out. And then they do the most dangerous thing in fitness. They start over again tomorrow. Here's the shift that's going to change everything. Days are emotional, but weeks are strategic. A single day is not going to determine your progress. A pattern of weeks most certainly will. When you zoom out and think in weeks, a couple of powerful things start to happen. First, pressure drops. You stop needing every workout to be amazing. You stop expecting every meal to be perfect. You stop using one off day as evidence that you blew it. Second, you start planning around life instead of against it. You know work is crazy midweek. You know weekends are more flexible. And you know when you train best and when you don't. So instead of hoping for motivation, you build rhythm. And rhythm beats motivation every time. This is why I care way less about what somebody did yesterday, and I care far more about what their last 4 weeks look like. Because when the week has structure, there's always a place to return to. And when you always know where to return to, you're going to stop drifting. So thinking in weeks doesn't make you less disciplined. It makes you more consistent. And consistency is exactly what changes your body. So before I walk you through what an ideal week looks like, you need to understand the philosophy behind it, because this isn't random. Everything in the Silver Edge approach is built around this one simple idea. Your plan should work with your life. It should not fight against it. Most fitness plans are designed in a vacuum. They assume unlimited time, unlimited energy, perfect recovery, and zero real-world stress, which is why they fall apart so quickly. The Silver Edge philosophy is different. It's built on a few core principles. First is less, but better. We don't want to pile on volume just to feel productive. We want to focus on high quality work that actually moves the needle. Second, strength is the anchor, not cardio marathons, not random classes. Strength training is the foundation because it's going to best support your metabolism, your joint health, your bone density, and certainly your long-term independence. Everything else supports that. Third, nutrition is repeatable. It's not rigid. We're not chasing perfection. We're building defaults, simple meals, consistent protein, whole foods most of the time, because repetition creates freedom. Fourth, lifestyle isn't optional. Sleep, stress, daily movement, these aren't add-ons. Like I said before, they are force multipliers. And finally, progress beats perfection every single time. Missed workouts happen, busy weeks happen, life happens. Success isn't avoiding those moments. It's knowing how to return to them without starting over. That philosophy is what turns a plan into something you can actually stick with. And now that you understand the thinking behind this, let's look at how it shows up in a real week. So this is the ideal Silver Edge week. I'm just going to kind of give you a big picture overview. Let's just zoom out and look at the big picture. And keep in mind, when I say an ideal week, I don't mean a perfect week. I mean a repeatable week. An ideal Silver Edge week has a few non-negotiable anchors built into it. It's got a whole lot of flexibility around them. So at a high level, it's going to look like this. 3 strength training days, daily movement built into life, simple, repeatable nutrition rhythms, intentional recovery, and margin for real life. That's it. No 2-hour workouts, no complicated schedules, no rigid rules that collapse the moment something that's going to go sideways in your life. Strength training anchors the week. Those sessions are the main events. Everything else supports them. Movement happens every day, but it's not punishment. Walking, light activity, mobility, things that help you recover instead of drain you. And nutrition follows a rhythm, not a rule book. You're not reinventing the wheel at every meal. You're repeating what works. Recovery is planned. It's not accidental. Sleep, rest days, and downshifts are part of the strategy, not signs of weakness. And finally, there's margin. We want space for busy work days, social plans, travel, and imperfect execution, because a week that only works when life is calm or perfect isn't an ideal week at all. This structure works because it's simple enough to repeat and flexible enough to survive. And when a week like this becomes your default, progress stops feeling fragile. So let's break down each piece and show you exactly how this works. So let's start here with your strength training days, because these are the anchors of a Silver Edge week. And that's not because it's trendy, it's not because it's hardcore, but because nothing's going to do more for your body after 50. You're not going to get more bang for your over 50 buck than investing in strength training. In a Silver Edge week, strength training shows up 3 times. Typically, could it be more? Could it be less? Yeah, but in general, for best practices, 3 times. And it's usually something like, say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Non-consecutive days, because that spacing matters, because after 50, recovery is just as important as the workout itself. And each session is typically, say, 40 to 60 minutes long. That's long enough to stimulate change, and it's short enough to recover from. And these aren't random workouts. They're structured, full-body sessions that are going to focus on big compound movements, joint-friendly ranges of motion, and certainly progressive overload over time. So in plain English, you are training to get stronger, not just tired. We're sending a clear signal to your metabolism, to your body, that muscle still matters. And when muscle stays on your body, metabolism stays higher, joints feel better, balance improves, daily life gets easier. This is also why we don't cram strength training into back-to-back days. We want each session to feel productive, not like you're dragging yourself through it. You should leave feeling worked, not wrecked. Because these sessions aren't about winning the day, they're about winning the week. When strength training becomes the anchors of your week, I think you're going to find that everything else falls into place way more easily. So now let's talk about our non-lifting days where we're prioritizing movement. We're talking about movement, not punishment here, because here's where a lot of people get things wrong. They think that if they're not lifting weights, they need to make up for it with something brutal. So maybe it's some extra cardio or some long treadmill sessions or some sweaty workouts that leave them feeling wrecked. That's not what non-lifting days are for. In an ideal Silver Edge week, non-lifting days are about movement and recovery, not punishment. So think of these as support days. Their job is to help you recover from strength training sessions, to keep your joints moving well, to manage stress, and to maintain your daily energy. So the foundation here is simple, and it's consistent movement. And walking is king, not power walking or anything goofy like that, not fat burning zone obsession, just moving your body regularly throughout the day. Maybe add in some light mobility work or some stretching or some easy recreational activity, some gentle conditioning if your body feels good and if your metabolism is up to it. The goal is, think of it this way. I'd like this. Think of it this way. The goal is circulation, not annihilation. And here's the key mindset shift. These days help the hard days work better. They improve recovery. They reduce stiffness. They keep momentum going without draining you. And when people stop turning every non-lifting day into a sufferfest, something surprising happens. They show up stronger on lifting days. They feel better overall. And consistency becomes easier. Movement is how we tell our bodies, hey, we're active humans. Punishment just teaches it to brace and conserve. So in a sustainable week, non-lifting days aren't about burning calories. They're about keeping the system moving forward. All right, so next up, let's talk about nutrition. And let's make this way less dramatic and way less complicated than the internet tends to do here. In an ideal Silver Edge week, nutrition isn't a daily decision marathon. It's a rhythm. Because the truth is, people don't fail at nutrition because they lack special knowledge. They fail because they're exhausted from thinking about it all the time. So instead of rigid rules, we built defaults. Simple, repeatable, boring, but in the best way possible. So here's what that looks like. Most meals are built around a protein anchor, not because protein is trendy, but because it supports muscle recovery, metabolism, and appetite control, especially for those of us over 50. From there, meals are mostly whole foods. Think fruits and vegetables and quality carbs and healthy fats. Nothing exotic, nothing Instagram worthy, just food that does its job. And here's an important part of that rhythm. We don't try to eat like it's a special occasion every day. Weekdays tend to be more structured. Weekends are more flexible. That flexibility isn't cheating. It's planned humanity. Because a nutrition plan that can't survive a dinner out or travel or family events is not a plan. It's just a countdown to quitting. The goal isn't to eat perfectly. It's to eat predictably enough that your body knows what to expect. When nutrition is boring and consistent, your energy stabilizes, cravings will calm down, decisions get easier, and progress becomes repeatable. And that's the point. We don't need a new meal plan every Monday. We need a rhythm that you can run on autopilot. And while you live the rest of your life, simple, boring, effective, and incredibly freeing once you stop fighting it. All right, so let's talk about some lifestyle pieces here, our hidden multipliers, if you will, because here's where a lot of people underestimate things. You can have great workouts and you can eat well most of the time, but if your lifestyle is working against you, progress is always going to feel so much harder than it needs to be. That's where lifestyle guardrails come in. Not rules, not restrictions, guardrails. They keep you moving in the right direction without needing constant discipline. So let's start with one of my favorites, and that's sleep. You don't need perfect sleep, but you do need enough sleep. And after 50, sleep plays a massive role in recovery, in hormone regulation, in appetite control, and your energy levels. A chronically underslept body is going to protect energy, and that usually means it's going to cling to fat. So we want to prioritize a consistent bedtime routine, not a perfection contest. Next up is stress. Stress isn't just mental, it's physical. High stress keeps your nervous system in protection mode, which makes building muscle and losing fat an uphill battle to say the least. This doesn't mean eliminating stress, it means downshifting it regularly. That's things like walks and breathing and unplugging, even just creating some space between meetings. Small things, big payoffs. Then there's daily movement. Steps matter, not as calorie burn so much, but as a signal that your body is meant to move. Consistent movement improves your blood sugar control, your recovery, your joint health, and your mood. And finally, let's talk about some alcohol awareness here. Not prohibition, but awareness. Know that alcohol impacts sleep, it impacts recovery and inflammation more as we age. This isn't about never enjoying a drink. It's about understanding the trade-offs and choosing intentionally. So here's our key takeaway. These guardrails don't replace training and nutrition. They multiply them. When lifestyle supports your plan, everything works best with way less effort. And when effort goes down, consistency goes way up. And that's where the real magic happens. So let's talk about what happens when weeks break, when things go haywire, because they will, right? So let's just address this straight up. Your week will break. You're going to miss a workout. A meeting's going to work long. Travel's going to happen. Dinner plans are going to change. Life is going to laugh at your calendar. And that's not a problem. The problem isn't when a week breaks. It's what people do next. Most people treat a broken week like a failure. They think, crap, I blew it. Or I'll restart next Monday, or next week's going to be better. And just like that, that momentum dissipates. It disappears. In a Silver Edge week, we don't ask, did this go perfectly? We ask, how fast did you return? How quickly did you bounce back? Miss a workout? No problem. The next scheduled session is your reset, not a punishment session. You ate off plan? No problem. The next meal is your anchor, not a guilt spiral. Got travel this week? You protect the basics and let the rest go. This is the difference between people who make progress and people who keep starting over. They don't panic. They don't overcorrect. They resume. Because consistency isn't about flawless execution. It's about having a structure you can fall back into without drama. When you know what a good enough week looks like, you stop letting one day off turn into a whole lost month. And that's how results compound quietly, steadily, boringly, and sustainably. So here's something I've learned after working with thousands of people over 50 at this point. Most people don't struggle because they're lazy or unmotivated or unwilling to do the work. I mean, some do, but most don't. Certainly you tuning into this podcast, that's not you. They struggle because they've never been taught how to design a week. They've been given workouts or meal plans or rules or challenges, but not real structure. And without structure, everything feels fragile. When you're doing this alone, a few things tend to happen. First, people tend to overcomplicate. Too many workouts, too many nutrition rules, too many shoulds. So instead of clarity, what they're really creating is mental noise. And when something feels overwhelming, it's really, really hard to stay consistent. Second, there's no outside perspective. It's almost impossible to objectively assess, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Is this actually helping or just keeping me busy? So people default to what feels productive, which often isn't what works best for those of us over 50. And third, most people don't know what a successful week even looks like. They only know what a failure looks like. Missed workouts, off-plan meals, busy days, but without a clear definition of a good enough week, everything starts to feel like a miss. And finally, accountability matters. Not pressure, not shame, just someone helping you zoom out and say, hey, this is working, keep going, trust the process. Or, hey, let's adjust this so it fits your life better. That's why most people never build a week like this on their own. Not because they can't, but because structure is hard to see when you're standing inside the chaos. And once you have it, everything gets easy to repeat. Which brings us to the most important part of all, how to check if your week is actually supporting your goals. So let's pause here and let's ask ourselves a few questions. Again, no judgment. We're not going to beat ourselves up, just an honest check-in. We're going to meet ourselves right where we are. So my question's for you. Does your current week actually support the results you want, or does it just react to whatever life throws at you? If you repeated last week exactly as it was for the next 3 months, would you be stronger, leaner, and more energized, or just more tired? Do you know what a successful week looks like for you? Not a perfect one, not a highlight reel week, just a realistic, repeatable week. One that still works when work gets busy and you miss a workout and dinner plans change, or maybe your motivation isn't all that great. When your week breaks, and it will, do you know where to return? Or do you find yourself starting over again and again? And here's the most important question. Does your current plan give you structure, or does it rely on willpower and hope? Because willpower fades, but structure stays. And once you see clearly whether your week is working for you or working quietly against you, your next step becomes obvious. Clarity always comes before change. So here's the big idea I want to leave you guys with. Structure doesn't restrict your life. Structure frees it. When you know what a good week looks like, you stop negotiating with yourself every day. You stop asking, should I work out, or what should I eat, or did I mess up? And you start saying things like, this fits, this works, I know what to do next time. That's freedom. Freedom from guilt, freedom from starting over, freedom from feeling like progress is fragile. The goal was never perfect days. The goal was a repeatable week that builds strength, energy, and confidence, even when life is busy, messy, and imperfect. And if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense, but I'm not really sure how to design my ideal week, that's exactly why I offer free clarity calls. This is a simple, no pressure conversation where we look at your current week, identify what's helping and what's hurting, and design a realistic structure that fits your life and your goals. No hype, no guilt, just clarity. You can book a free clarity call with me using the link in the show notes. You guys can find that in whatever app you're listening to this on. But remember, when the week works, motivation becomes optional. And that's how real progress is built. One solid, repeatable week at a time. Okay, that's our show for today, folks. If you are over 50 and you feel frustrated and stuck and you want a clear plan, book a free clarity call with me. You can find a link to learn more in the show notes for this episode. You guys can find that in whatever app you're listening to this on, or head over to silveredgefitness.com/410. As we wrap up our time together today, you can show your support for this show in two important ways. The first is to tell a friend about this podcast and encourage them to give it a listen. The second is for you YouTube folks to click on the like and subscribe buttons, and for you podcast folks to please give this podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and until next time, stay strong.